Welcome to Backyards and Bevvies. Grab your favorite bevy, pull up a chair, and enjoy the ride. Hey, B&B fam. This podcast is sponsored to you by BetterHelp, H-E-L-P. Is there something getting in the way of your happiness? I know when I traveled the world, I had many days where BetterHelp's worldwide service of licensed professional therapists could have helped me speak to someone no matter where I was in the world about whatever was happening with my life, and with zero judgment. With their ability to match me with a therapist that best fits me, I know my mental health would have been way better back then. Believe me, I needed it. But I'm here to share a way for you to take back control of your mental health by telling you about BetterHelp's awesome services they have for you to talk with a pro about your life through their app or just online. Whether it is a video session or some simple messaging, their team is here to help. I went to check out the app for myself just to see how easy it was to use, and after a series of questions, I was told I would be able to start matching with a therapist in under 48 hours. And what is super rad is that it's affordable and they even offer financial aid too. So come join the 2 million users that have already been helped and gain back control of your mental health by visiting betterhelp.com/backyards for 10% off your first month. Remember, BetterHelp is therapy done securely online. Don't forget to use the special code BACKYARDS and let BetterHelp, H-E-L-P, help you to start living a happier life today. And we're live.
Woo! Hello.
Episode number 40. Welcome to Backyards and Bevvies.
I feel like you put your radio personality on there.
Hey, here we are.
Very
This
deep.
is the morning show with PK and BK. Wait, we used that noise last week.
We did.
Well, I guess we have to have a signature noise. We did talk about that.
Terrible.
Number 40.
Yeah.
We've done it. We've started a podcast 40 episods ago.
Yep.
And here we are, still talking.
Still
You can't get me to
talking.
shut up.
That's very true.
I think I'll have to die before I stop talking.
I don't even know if that'll work.
I know. The cemetery's like, hey, we have to move your husband. Everyone's sick of him.
Heaven's like, send him back.
Reincarnate this guy. He's horrible. He just talks all day long.
100%.
The clouds can't even get rest up here.
True.
But yeah, we're doing it. This is pretty awesome. We obviously thank everybody that tunes in, whether it be via the reels to the TikToks to the a lot of this stuff is the same on different platforms, but I feel like some people use TikTok more than some people use Instagram more.
Mm-hmm.
So wherever you are viewing, listening, judging, laughing, thank you.
Yeah.
It's really nice.
Absolutely.
It's keeping me entertained. That's for sure.
Perfect.
But today I wanted to talk about something kind of fun because, well, it's fun and it's not fun because I think everybody goes through this thing I call the creep factor.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an interesting thought, and I, by no means am I like a psychiatrist or is this like some, theory I read about.
Mm-hmm.
It was introduced to me when I toured doing audio for Claire. And they coined it the creep factor because through time, if you do certain practice, or if you don't take care of certain practices, like you'll inevitably end up digging yourself into a hole.
Okay.
And I always found it interesting, and I would see it happen to guys on tour. I would see it happen to myself on tour, where I would do something in the audio program that would be like, oh, I'm going to make my life easier by leaving this in, and I'll just add it to the show tomorrow.
So like something that you've already recorded from the show that day.
Yeah, so we would have audio files that we did for the speaker systems, right?
Okay.
And they have EQ, delay, the shading involved with the EQ. They have like certain characteristics that you can turn on, turn off, manipulate, however you want to think about all those little features. It's like having a car stereo. You can do all these little functions, and each time you turn it on, it stays the same, right?
Right.
But not every song deems the bass to be at 900.
Or some songs need more bass.
Or some, yeah. So, like when you're listening to your iPod and all those things they have in there, EQs built in. So this is where it started in my brain. And at first I was like, it's kind of funny, but I feel like I can manage it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the way a lot of things start. And so the way that it would go on tour is, you get a new tour, you'd start this file, and if you thought that you were going to beat the system by leaving certain parameters in, you would inevitably catch yourself in a pickle one day because not every room was the same. Even though you might think that you're hanging the speakers from the ceiling in the exact same position every day, there's small variances.
Okay.
And through time, it was called the creep factor because if you left those on and then you just added to whatever you did the day before and you just kept saving and saving and saving on top of...
Instead of starting fresh. Or starting from a template that had certain characteristics that you knew that you needed every day, right? Like, so for instance, one could be like, oh, I always add in this EQ page. Now, what I do on this EQ page should be flat, but every day I add it in. So instead of adding it in and taking that 10 extra seconds that it would to do that, you could save yourselves the 10 extra seconds by just saving a blank EQ page in this file. Well, if you left the EQ on, though, and you just kept saving and saving, by the end of the tour, you could have who knows how many filters and how many different cuts and how many different boosts and all these little things. And the only person that suffers is the audience and the crowd, because or the crowd and the artist, because you're not giving them a fresh start every day. Right.
So that's like kind of where the idea started to pop up in my brain as I started to, let's just say, grow in life. And one of the things I noticed was that if I kept, one of the things that I've always done is I always thought that I would beat the system by cheating, lying, stealing, or, like not being honest with myself about what I was doing. So though I might say I was resetting, like let's just say, for instance, a diet. Well, if I was going to really try to get in shape that year, I really had to start fresh every morning and not be like, well, today I'm only going to have 4 M&Ms instead of 10. But then all of a sudden it's like, well, yeah, I got away with it yesterday, so maybe I'll have 4 more today.
It's still not 10.
And, I'm still maintaining my weight, but then all of a sudden a week from now, so now it's become like a practice, right?
Right.
So then all of a sudden...
Instead of having 0 M&Ms every day, now you're having 8 M&Ms every day because it's not 10 M&Ms.
Exactly. So the treat yourself day goes away and it just becomes it's an everyday occurrence now.
And then you have to add a different treat to make it a treat yourself day.
Exactly. So this creep factor, I started thinking about it in reality. And well, even with relationships, like even you and me, like for instance, there were things about my life that I never deleted that crept back up.
Yeah.
And when they did creep up, it was that catastrophic moment where things could have gone really bad.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, like over time, I kept thinking like this creep factor is a real thing. It's not just an audio thing. It is definitely a life thing. And I was listening to someone speak the other day, and they were talking about, how things will inevitably fall apart on their own accord, no matter what. Like even a human body, if you just did nothing and sat there, you would eventually die.
Right.
Because it's just, you have to take care of yourself. But even then, taking care of yourself, you're still gonna die.
Right.
It's just...
Hopefully you're extending not just the length, but the quality
100%.
of your life.
Yeah. And so this creep factor, if you think about it, which is probably impossible, but if you led 100% good life, right? Let's just say you will still eventually end up in a grave like everyone else. But if you allowed certain habits, let's just, take the M&Ms thing again, right? And you're like, oh, well, I just had 1 today. And then you have 1 for like a year. And then the next year you're like, oh, you know what? Like 1 didn't hurt me, so I'm going to allow 2 into my life every day. And then 3. And then all of a sudden it turns into each day you're adding a new M&M. Next thing you know, you're adding, 400, 500, 600 calories a day back into your life.
Right.
Which then could translate into poor health with your heart or your sodium or, and these aren't, like, I'm not
a doctor, so these are just thoughts that I have tried to implement in my own life, and I feel like they are working though. So it's like I wanted to share the idea of this creep factor because it's interesting to me.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely see how that phrase can apply to everyday life and many different situations. Like you said, whether it comes to audio or dieting or sleep habits, for example, like...
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah, I mean, definitely something that I will need to work on in the future. I'm kind of letting myself slide right now since I'm pregnant and need the extra rest. But, you know, I used to get up with you at 4 a.m. every day and work out. And it started that I was starting to get tired and everything with being pregnant. And not that there's anything wrong with getting some extra sleep, but, you know, I could also get up and see how I do. And, you know, one day it's, okay, well, I'm just going to sleep in until 5 today. And then, oh, well, maybe I'll just sleep in until 5:30. And then it's like, well, if I get up at 6:45, that actually gives me 15 minutes to, like, pee, brush my teeth, make Maverick's milk, and then go wake him up at 7.
Yeah.
So, you know, I could definitely see a creep factor in that sense.
Yeah.
In my life, where it's, you know, it's important to pay attention to those things so that it's not something continuous that ends up being detrimental. Not that you have to be perfect all the time or always on or anything like that. I mean, like I said, I'm sleeping horribly at night, so those extra hours in the morning I really need right now. But I don't want it to be a habit that continues after this baby is born and I'm able to start getting back into a normal sleep rhythm.
Yeah, and the creep factor, it sounds horrible, but it is.
It does, yeah. When you suggested, like, what if we talk about the creep factor? I'm like, creep, like a creepy person? Like where are we going to go with this conversation?
Like the creepy person on the train that just stares at me?
I don't know. What do you mean here? But yeah, it creeping in is definitely
it creeps
a good
into
example.
Your life.
And if you think of it also, like another actual example that I just thought of is with trees. So you have all these like creeping vines and stuff like that. And some of them are beautiful. We have some of them, they have these beautiful like orange and red trumpet looking flowers on them. And you think like, oh, it's not a big deal. Like,
look how pretty it is.
It looks so pretty. It's fine. Well, if you continue to let those creeping vines overtake your trees, they actually end up killing your trees.
Killing the tree, yeah.
And then
they suck all the water.
Yeah. And then expanding on that, if the tree dies and then the tree falls on your house, well, if you'd gotten rid of the creeping vine, maybe that wouldn't have happened.
Yeah. And I think a lot of the person I was listening to is a psychiatrist or psychologist or one of those people. And, you know, he always has like very interesting tips about just life in general. So that's why I listen to him. And I tend to like Jordan Peterson. So I think that, you know, some of the stuff he says is very helpful. And I think that the way that he was talking about it, he was speaking about the creep factor, but in a completely super high intelligent way. And so when it started to resonate, I was like, oh, that's what he's talking about. And he was talking about those simple things in life that you allow, that you don't, like you said, oh, it's pretty, but it's nice.
Yeah.
It's the same goes for like, you know, let's just say a family member that's in your life that continually like is doing things that you allow to happen. Over time, eventually them crossing the boundary will lead to something bad if you don't stop it.
If you don't set that boundary and stick to it, yeah.
And but it is hard though, you know, and as people we like to be compassionate. We like to be well, sometimes we like to be right. So if someone's telling you like, oh dude, that's bad, you shouldn't go down that route, or you shouldn't, you know, don't smoke crack.
Definitely a good rule to follow.
As some of those things are, you know, yeah, that was a little extreme.
Good example.
Good example. But like, you know, like you tell someone like constantly like, hey, you know, like let's go exercise together because, you know, you always are telling me that you need to get out and walk. And if they're continually making excuses, well, they're allowing that. Then if they allow that to always become part of their life, that excuse will inevitably kill them. In like a very long roundabout way.
Mm-hmm.
And those are those problems that I deal with and I struggle with all the time. So I love talking about this stuff because to me, I have many creep things that could creep into my life at any moment. Like I love Skittles.
Ooh, those are good.
I love alcohol. I love procrastinating.
Yeah, same.
All the things in life that take me away from having any responsibility are obviously pleasurable. It's like those are hell yeah. I would rather go lay on a beach and drink pina coladas than change diapers and cut reels and be responsible and work on the project and
for sure
you name it. But if I allow myself one or two of those days, whatever, a month or a year, or however, however you want to allow treat yourself days, that's a different thing than allowing it to happen once a week, which then allows it to happen twice a week, 3 times a week.
Right. Well, I think it's important to know your personal boundaries that have to be set for yourself.
That's hard.
Yeah, 100%. Well, it's like you just said, or it made me think of how you are only allowing yourself to sleep in, what is it, like 1 day a month right now?
Yeah.
So every single day, 7 days a week, even Sundays, you are getting up at 4:30, 4:15?
Well, I allowed the creep factor to creep into my life.
Yeah.
I was getting up at 4:15 every day, like on the dot.
Now it's 4:30?
Well, I've slowly crept backwards now because it's hard to break a habit,
For sure.
So the creep factor can work both ways. So now I'm back to 4:20.
Okay. So you get up at 4:20 every day, except 1 day a month is the one treat you're allowing yourself where you sleep in until 6:45 with me.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because you explained it to me not too long ago that you know yourself, and if you don't stick to it 29 out of 30 days, then that creep factor will start taking over in that particular instance with you. And one of the things that is so healthy for you right now is getting to have that alone time every morning for 2 hours. You get to work out and really focus on your health, which is helping with mental health and all of those other things. And if you allowed yourself to sleep in even until, let's say, 5 a.m., well, it's still technically 5 to 7, you would still have 2 hours before we have to wake Maverick up if you immediately started. But there's no way that's how it's going to go. And then it eats into your time with Maverick.
Yeah.
And then it's not fair to Maverick because he doesn't get the personal attention from you that he needs to get, and this, that, and the other thing, and then it sets you behind in the rest of your day when it comes to editing the podcast and cutting the reels and doing all the promotion for it and stuff like that. So it's very interesting because the creep factor ends up having a domino effect on so many other aspects of your life when it starts out with just one small change.
Yeah. I think there was a movie called The Butterfly Effect.
Oh, yeah. I haven't seen that movie in so long.
I don't think I've ever seen it, but I know the principle behind it is that, I've seen it in Simpsons episodes, and I think there's a lot of people who have touched on it before, and it's the idea that if you were to go back in time and you moved one thing, what that would do over the span of time.
Right. Well, it's like in Jurassic Park, which we had on in the background yesterday. Malcolm is talking about how if a butterfly flaps its wings on one side of the world, does that cause a monsoon on the other side of the world? Obviously a very drastic and dramatic example, but there's cause and effect for every single thing that happens.
Everything. Everything.
Dr. Cox.
Everything. There's so, gosh, we could give so many examples. Someone I think there's graphs that are done, or there's woodworkers that talk about this too. Measuring is important. That's why so many things in life, like it seems like all of a sudden this was all figured out, but people have known this for hundreds of thousands of years. Like they've just practiced it in different ways. We didn't have ways to or people didn't have ways to share it back then, so they would tell stories and they would talk about people allowing things to happen, cycles and families, and like there's, instead of like, I think people refer to it as like, oh, like 7 years of bad luck, it's like stuff like that. It's not necessarily that, like superstitions. Yes, they're potentially superstitions and all that stuff, but what it is it's people telling a story of like, oh, that person did this, and through time this happened to them. And that's the moral. That's the bigger picture, is that it's like a woodworker. If you're trying to cut something, you want it to be in line from the start all the way to, like, let's just say you're cutting something 4 inches. Well, if you're off just, a millimeter with 4 inches, that's whatever. I'll just bang that little piece of wood into place. But if you're cutting, let's say, a giant piece of, like something that's like 20 feet long, that millimeter turns into something that's way greater on the other side.
Right.
And so then just imagine if you were cutting something that was a mile long and then 2 miles long. All of a sudden, that little thing that you said, oh, that won't affect anything, it's just a little bit,
totally changes the length.
Turns into a complete catastrophe in a different place.
Yeah.
And I think that's the important thing when you do things and when you talk to people, when you can equate it to anything. Like, sure, we can use an example of woodworking, or we can use an example of working out in the morning. They all do exactly what you said. There's a cause, and then there's an effect behind it. And it's interesting. I just have always allowed it to happen and never really like wanted to answer to it, because I think that was the easier thing. It's like, oh, I'll just shave. I'll just shave it down on the end. I'll deal with it when it pops up.
Right.
Certain things you can't deal with when they pop up.
No, you have to be proactive instead of reactive, for sure.
Yeah. Now the creep factor though is it to me though, it's a better way of thinking about it, because I think there's so many ways of people explaining it, through the butterfly effect, or through cause and effect, or this or that. And so that's why I wanted to talk about it, because I thought it was a cool term too.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely not what you expect the subject matter to be when you say the creep factor.
Yeah.
You automatically are thinking of like a flasher on the subway, or something like that.
Now, I will say though that the in audio, when we would deal with this stuff, there wasn't anyone like, nothing was like catastrophic. You weren't going to set the PA, I guess you potentially could set it on fire if you accidentally hit the wrong button, but that would take a lot of work. You'd have to really blow up a lot of drivers. And,
like, is there a fire button?
There used to be a big red fader button on the Shoko stuff. There was like the master kill switch in a way. There are buildings though that their fire codes will cut off the audio system. Wow.
Is that just because of the amount of power that's running through it that could cause a fire?
No, it's like if there was, anything, your small electronics could cause a fire if they really heat it up enough.
Bad batteries and things.
Yeah. Poor taking care of things. You have to take care of things, because
cable management.
Cable management is a big part, because if you wrap your cable wrong, through time, the copper inside of it can twist and eventually pull out of one of the plugs. So there is, it is in everything. It will fall apart. That cable will eventually, on its own, crumble to its own demise. Without anyone touching it. But then you allow people to touch it every day, and you allow different stagehands to touch it, different audio people to touch it, That's why when I worked at Claire, they had so many different processes of checking things because of that. So that way, that creep factor, because if they just sent cables out every single time, eventually every cable would be broken.
Right.
And then what do you do? Do you shut the system down and fix everything, or do you, each time a cable goes out and comes back, you fix it?
Right.
Or check it, and that's the same thing with you. Maybe at 20, you twist your back and you're like, yeah, that was all right. Like I kind of hurt today, but I'm going to keep going.
Yeah.
Twisting your back at 40, especially if you're out of shape, and then you're like, yeah, tomorrow I'm just going to go back to work and
It'll
do
be
this.
fine.
You should probably go get checked.
Yeah. Go see a chiropractor.
So yeah, the to answer your question, yes, in the realm of audio, there is always potential for anything to catch on fire if it got hot enough or if you plugged it in wrong. We used to call, like plugging in and releasing the magic smoke. Because there was cables that looked similar to other cables. So, you could plug in a communication system into the back of a console and fry the circuitry.
Oh, gosh.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's just, but that's why you're cautious, and that's why you label things, and that's why you do things. But but in venues that have the big kill switch, it's for public safety.
Gotcha.
So that way, I think a lot of casinos do it, especially in the northeast. Some theaters do it and stuff like that. So like if by chance there was a fire in the main lobby, instead of someone having to go to the production manager and run from the back of the house to the front of house guy or to the monitor guy to then signal the band to all these things, they just kill it. And then their public service announcement can kick in and say, like, there is a fire. Walk out of the building.
Wow.
Beep, boop, bop, boop, beep, boop.
That's exactly what it says.
So, but what I was going to say was that though the creep factor wasn't going to be catastrophic each night for someone in audio, as I got further and further along in my career with Claire, it started to become very apparent that though they were simple little details, they really saved a lot of trouble for me, the engineer, the band, the audience, everybody involved. If you just took every day with your good routine, because you can create a good routine.
Right.
Like, I'm not saying that every day all of a sudden I woke up, got off the bus, and then did the entire job over again.
Well, no, like you said, you had a template.
I had a template, yeah. Like, I took the time and realized what works for me. So, like, for instance, you're talking about my morning routine right now. I've realized that I'm not good at dieting. Like, I'm not good at holding down a keto diet or a high carb, low fat diet or whatever. Like, I'm just not good at that because I like my M&Ms and I like to allow them into my life. So instead of focusing on that and trying to go out to places and try to order things and do all that stuff, I'm just too busy to think about my food. So instead I flopped my food diet for, okay, let me just eat as healthy as I possibly can 5 days a week. And then usually our Saturdays and Sundays are really packed full of just either friends or family or just doing things around the house because you're busy 5 days a week. I'm busy 5 days a week.
Right.
So I was like, okay, well, I'll wake up early. It will suck. Everything about 4:30 in the morning sucks.
Yeah.
There is not
100%.
I used to be the opposite. I used to stay up till 4:30. That was fun.
Not anymore.
But then the creep factor happened that I would stay up till 4:30, but then I wouldn't wake up till 2:30, and my whole day really was gone.
Shot, yeah.
I never believed my dad when he would say that.
Yeah, he was right.
You sleep your life away. There's so much out there.
Yep.
There really is.
My dad always says, you're burning the candle at both ends.
I can't wait to use those lines as a dad. I'm writing them all down right now. So I've taken those same ideas and I've built a template for my life. Now, during my day, though, if something pops up, at least in my template that I've created, I can deal with it or I can manage it. Or if maybe I don't get to cut the reel or load it when I want to this day, well, then you know what? I can still do it most of the rest of the day because I've set open holes for my time. As opposed to, well, let me sleep in today and then let me try to work out at this time. Because if I say let me try, what ends up happening is you inevitably don't do it.
Right.
Well, because then you've given yourself that, well, I just said I would try.
Right.
I didn't say I was going to do it.
Yeah.
So there's a time to really I think in everyone's life where they have to analyze things that they do on a daily basis and
make healthy changes.
Will allow themselves to understand that, like, if you're going to say, I want something different in life, well, then you have to then sacrifice something else to have that happen, you know? And that ultimately is that creep factor. I'm going to sacrifice this thing because I want this other thing to happen every day for me because my life is so much better that way.
Right.
So that's where the creep factor came in. And that's in audio. Yeah, I would sacrifice certain things of my time because I knew that each venue held different characteristics. So then I would have to do those things, unfortunately, because...
well, in the long run, it ended up saving you time and headaches. May not have saved you time and headaches every day, but if you had continued to layer and layer and layer, and then all of a sudden you had to completely start over, it would not have been worth the laziness of the layering.
Yeah, and it's so funny, like, now that I look at different things, and I, like, especially people online, I follow different things online, and a lot of the people I follow are either a motivational speaker of some sort or some sort of positive, just, role model in the community, or, like, even actors that have really good routines that, like Mark Wahlberg. He's just a really good overall representation that I like. I don't care if anyone else likes him, but I like him. I think that as a father, as an actor, all the things that he does, he speaks pretty highly of of many things around him, and he works really hard. Adam Sandler, of course, because I just want to wear gym shorts like him the rest of my life.
So far, so good.
But they have routines down, and they stick to them really, really hard, and it's to better. I think it betters not only me, but it betters everyone around me, because then people don't have to deal with me.
For sure.
Yeah, you still have to listen to me talk.
But at least it's positive.
But you don't have to listen to me complain.
Exactly. I'll take the positive over the negative any day.
Yeah, because, me talking is one thing, because I'll just, like, blabber on about
whatever.
This delicious prime drink. It is actually pretty good.
Oh, yeah. Mine's interesting. It's not bad.
That was a fun tangent.
Yeah.
Though we are not sponsored by Prime. Logan Paul, if you're listening to this podcast, which I know you are.
Well, it's cool because I had thought that this was an energy drink. And then when I looked at it this morning and it said it had no caffeine, I was like, oh, okay. So, like, I can have this whether I've had my daily limit of caffeine or not, which is awesome. And it actually has barely any sugar or sodium as well. It's kind of like a healthier vitamin water. And it tastes good. I have the blue raspberry one. I mean, I'm almost done with it. I was thirsty.
I was thirsty too. I'm not done with mine yet. I had chugged my energy drink before we got out here.
Oh, well, I had already finished mine.
Well, that was a fun tangent.
Yes, good times.
Welcome back to Backyards and Bevvies.
Hooray! Where we talk about random fun
That
things.
was not an advertisement by any means either.
Definitely not. But
today, your morning commute is sponsored by...
Our backyard.
Our backyard. Ta-da. Not igloo coolers yet. Maybe one day.
Maybe one day.
But yeah, the creep factor. And now, so the opposite to the creep factor is getting out of something. So the creep factor can work both ways, right? So like I said earlier, that I had found myself creeping up to, 4:30, 4:35. But I knew, deep down, all right, 4:35, I can get up, I can feed the cats, feed the dog, let everyone out, make my pre-workout, use the little boys' room, and get to working out. But then all of a sudden, that 2-hour mark creeps up real quick.
Yeah.
And like I do about an hour of push-ups, sit-ups, planks, squats. I do that every morning for about an hour. And then I row for about 40 to 45 minutes every morning.
And burn 1,000 calories rowing. That is insane.
I know. Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm pretty sure right now I'm burning somewhere between 1,200 and 1,500 calories every morning. But it's paying off though. Like I'm down. I'm gonna say I think I'm down right around 20 pounds.
Yeah,
I still have about 5 to go. I think 5 when I get down to about 4 to 5 more pounds. I'm gonna be happy. I'm happy now.
Yeah, you look awesome.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, I mean, you're the one that has to look at me the most.
Well,
and the viewers.
I'm enjoying
on
the
YouTube.
view.
Well, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
This podcast is now sponsored by The View.
Nope.
Berkeley's View.
My
Berkeley's
view.
View.
Yes.
Yeah. But I started to notice that I was allowing that creep factor to creep me closer to the 440 mark, and there would have been no way that I would have been happy. I would have been miserable because I would have missed out on something, or I would have like started to like eat into the little dude's time in the morning.
Right.
So I reversed it, and I, instead of going, okay, tomorrow morning I'm getting up at 4:15, and the rest of the month, I said, all right, tomorrow 4:25. And I did that for a few days. I just said, all right, 4:25.
Yep.
And every time that my alarm would go off and I would hit the little snoozer or the hey, let me go a little longer button, I just didn't. And it's hard, but that's the hardest. That right there is hard, though. That
For sure.
5 minutes. There was no way that I was giving 15 back.
Right.
The 5.
But the 5, yeah.
Which sounds so crazy. It's like, oh, that 5 extra minutes.
It makes a difference. It's the mental game.
It totally is a mental game. I feel like if I could sleep all night and feel like I slept for 10 minutes, I can fall back asleep for the last 5 minutes and feel like I slept for
refreshed.
14 hours.
Yeah,
I was like, what in the world just happened
I
to me?
hear you.
And I don't know why that is, but
REM sleep, I guess. Oh, that was a big freaking spider.
did it bite you?
No, but it scared me. Right on my leg. It like dropped on me.
Well,
it was one of those jumping ones.
It is spider season here at the ranch.
Dislike.
Love.
No. Now I wonder where I swatted him off to. Don't come back.
Probably inside your van. The left van.
I don't think so. I smushed him that way.
So the creep factor isn't just a negative thing either. You can creep factor out of something. And I think that that's the more positive way to look at it, is that, sure, maybe you dug yourself into a really bad hole. And the same went with audio. I'd watch guys and I'd stand behind them that would do stuff on their consoles that I didn't know about or that I didn't see, nor did I care to see, because it's their mix for the band. That's not my job. But they would slowly be like, oh, hey, dude, this sucks, or this doesn't sound right, or, oh, everything's broken. And it'd be like, well, maybe not.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not really changing anything. Like, I'm trying to give you the same product every day. And that's the reason why. If I knew that I was loading the template every day and doing the exact right measures every day, if we had one bad show, okay, that's inevitable.
You're going to have a bad show.
But if we started to have like 2, 3, 4 bad shows in a row and I wasn't changing anything and I wasn't really doing anything different, the only logical place to look at was, well, what are you doing where I don't know about? And that's where you can save yourself. And the same goes for like you and me in the relationship. If I know that I'm doing everything at least right nowadays, I can at least say, like, if you're like, hey, what in the world is that? I'd be like, whoa, hey. Why are you talking to me like that? First off, hold on. Let's start this over with excuse me.
Can we have a chat?
Can we have a chat? But that would save me all the things of you being like, well, let's talk this, and this out. I'd be like, hold on. Here's everything. I'll lay it all out and be like, nothing's changed on my end.
Yeah.
So something else, maybe something crept in that we don't know about. So let's go look over there. It starts to eliminate problems. And so, like on the road, I would inevitably go through my side of things and be like, nope, everything looks really correct. Because here's the other thing. We've all done this before. You have a template and you save something into your template.
Yeah. Can't do that.
So there is the possibility to allow things to creep even into your template. So, like maintenance on yourself is the same way that you would maintain your computer files if you're a photographer, or, your camera equipment or your car.
Yeah.
Like if your fan belt is making a noise when you turn it on, you should probably go get it checked.
Probably.
Because you know what's going to happen if you don't? It's going to break down somewhere. Then you'll be like, dang it. Why does the world hate me?
Nope.
No.
To pay attention to the signs.
You allowed your car to keep running on E.
Yeah.
And so I know this is long-winded, but I think that it is important to talk about because it's something that I think we all live with and we all don't ever want to admit to it.
Mm-hmm.
And I hear it all the time, like, oh, I wish this would happen for me. And and nowadays, like, I look at it differently. Like, yeah, I used to wish things would happen to me, but nothing's just going to happen to me.
Right.
Like, as much as we want to say, like, oh, I'm just going to sit here and wait for the lottery to win the lottery. Your chances are so far.
Right.
Just get up and go do something.
Right.
Change something. Change the way you're doing something. Change one thing and then allow that creep factor to then slowly creep you into a positive light.
Right.
Where it's not creepy.
100%. I found our spider friend. He's on the table, stalking that fly.
What if he eats that fly right in front of us?
I don't
It'd be
care,
wild.
as long as it stays away from
They're
me.
about to fight it out.
They are. The fly's like coming at him.
I hope this is on.
Oh!
Whoa.
He didn't catch him, but that was a big jump.
That was a giant jump.
Whoa.
I hope we have that on camera.
That was pretty crazy.
I'm going to zoom in on that. I've never seen a spider
Fly,
attack
you live to see another day. That was wild.
Okay.
Okay.
Back to reality. We're not living in fly and spider world anymore.
As long as he stays away from me.
That fly likes you.
It does.
So, I personally like talking about this stuff because every day I'm always analyzing how I can live better because I lived not like wrong. I wasn't like a murderer, but I did really bad things to people that I could have avoided that maybe didn't affect my life directly each time.
But it affected theirs.
And I think that that's part of that creep factor that I talk about. And I hope in this whole, like idea of us getting better and us growing and us opening up our world to people, that it allows someone to also be like, oh man, I do that. Mm-hmm. And I've always wanted to change that. And I've always wanted to look at something differently.
Yeah.
Because, sure, there's the easy ones, the physical, then there's the work. But then there's, maybe you had your heart broken.
Yeah.
And you've allowed yourself to go deeper away from allowing your heart to be open again.
Yeah.
And you allow yourself, or mental health too, you start to creep into a dark place because everything you see around you is happy, but you're miserable.
Right.
There's so many different outlooks on this creep factor where, I hope by allowing myself to be open with things, even if someone didn't want to talk about it up and, out publicly, maybe they could hear our side and be like, dang, I'm glad that I'm not the only one that feels like some days I'm allowing myself to be taken over.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it is hard. I deal with it every time I wake up and open the refrigerator.
For sure. I try not to keep sweet things around to tempt you.
Most of your sweet things, though, aren't like my bag.
Yeah.
I'm like, unless we're sitting on the couch together, and then I'm like, oh, okay, that looks delicious. Because they're creeping closer to me always.
Creeping closer.
I always feel like you start your snacks on the opposite side of you.
I feel bad. I'm like, do I offer?
And then all of a sudden that little hand comes over with one little morsel in it, and I'm like, what's one gonna do?
Yeah.
That's the only time your sweets get me.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. I enjoy them.
Good.
Has there been something in your life recently that you, outside of the sleep thing, that you're seeing the creep factor go the reverse, though? Like, are you... Because, again, we could talk about all the negative sides to something, but there is positive sides to it as well when you start to, like...
I don't know. I mean, the sleep thing was definitely like the most prominent example for me. I mean, I think I've mostly been pretty good sticking with my routine lately. I would definitely like to have a routine for sure. I mean, I am like off of work for the next week. I actually took time off. I think I was allowing working too much to kind of start like creeping back in
Mm-hmm.
and like cut into some of our family time sometimes.
Gotcha.
Because I got really busy and then got used to being really busy, and so I think it was good to take a step back and be like, okay, you know what, I'm going to take some time off.
Yeah.
And have a little reset and work on stuff with you here to get ready for our baby girl and stuff like that. So,
yeah.
I think that was a positive way to deal with a creep factor.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, you had a bunch of time off saved up.
Yeah,
so...
I still have a bunch saved up even after taking off next week.
But I think that right there, though, I think a lot of people go through what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
You're through that is that they allow work to take over their lives, and next thing you know, someone had brought this up. Maybe it was in a meme. It was kind of funny, but it was like, like every time you talk to someone in their adult life, you're like, hey, how's it going? The first answer is, I'm busy.
Yeah. I'll talk to you later.
It's such an easy answer but we're all busy.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that there's certain things, though, that can allow yourself to allow work to consume you or allow certain parts of your life to consume you, where then you are just busy because you've allowed it to take over. And so it is healthy to do the resets. I've seen a lot of people recently, and obviously the panoramic still, it's out there, it's still doing its thing, but a lot of places have opened up. So I've seen a lot of people venturing out into foreign countries again, which is really cool.
Which is great.
And I think that they're not doing it just because, like, oh, magically it's open. It's because I think the body needs, and the mind and the heart and the soul and all those things need that reset every once in a while. Even if it is just a lake day.
Yeah.
I think that is a big factor into mental health, though, and allowing yourself to not be taken over by all of the things that you can possibly worry about in life nowadays.
Absolutely. 100%.
I mean, you turn around, every day there's a new something.
Yeah.
So if you allow all of that to overwhelm you, well, then that crept up on you as well. Like you can't allow the weight of the world to magically get into your head and think that you have to fix it all.
Yeah.
You can't.
Right.
So even the work, the news, all those, that's giant.
Yeah.
Those are giant things that people can be like, you know what? Maybe I'm going to creep out of reading the news right when I wake up. And right when I go to bed, or right before I go to bed.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely a good example.
Get rid of nightmares.
Yeah, no nightmares. No nightmares.
The big spooky nightmares.
The big spooky nightmares.
But I'm glad that you listened to me, or I'm glad you actually chose this one.
I did, yeah. We were talking about what we wanted to talk about, and you ran some ideas past me, and I thought that the phrase certainly was interesting because it's not what you think it means, and then just the theory behind it as well.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't write it. I think it's been around for a long time, but I think the terminology that I used for sure might be new to someone. So yeah. I hope that people listened to it and said, man, that was crazy.
Yeah.
I love M&Ms too.
We have some in our freezer. I think I might go eat one after this.
They're red, white, and blue. Remember we opened the package?
We're like, oh, 4th of July colors. Sweet.
Yeah, speaking of 4th of July, it's next weekend. Yeah,
your favorite holiday.
So, okay, before we get on to my favorite holiday.
Okay.
The creep factor.
Yeah.
Be cautious with it. It's not a...
Be aware.
I'm no psychologist. I'm no psychiatric person. But I've been through a whole hell lot of stuff. Mm-hmm. And the one thing I can say is that the only time that I've ever noticed myself failing is when I've allowed bad things to creep into my life. Mm-hmm. It's plain and simple. It's not rocket science. It's not me being preachy up here on my high horse. It's just me saying, if you want to change something in life, look at what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's as simple as that, because that's the only thing that I can ever do, and I can't put blame on you. I can't put blame on anyone else in my life. It's all on me. Mm-hmm. I'm the only one that can allow these things to creep into my life, and I think that that's the bigger take from it, is that it's not the fact of it's one M&M. It's the fact of you saying, I don't want that M&M because I'm really trying to do something else.
Right. 100%.
No offense to M&Ms. I like M&Ms.
We love M&Ms.
Love M&Ms.
It's just a random example.
I just am stuck on M&Ms. I think we're going to have to go get another
I
bag.
think
of
we
M&Ms.
are.
4th of July M&Ms too.
Yes, delicious.
I do love 4th of July. So we can we can go on a little
chat about
we're
that
done.
next
Yeah,
time.
let's chat. We only have a few more minutes.
I'm dying.
Do I need to call the ambulance?
You should.
Oh, look, I found this tiny violin right here.
Okay, Dad. Okay.
You really not going to listen to my 4th of July?
No,
We're done?
I love you, but baby and I are so hot.
You are so hot.
No, not in a cute way right now. I'm like turning into a puddle.
You're turning into a puddle.
Yeah. I feel like I'm the color of this chair.
Let me take my glasses off. No, you look a little sweaty. As I know the flies are creeping up on you.
They're everywhere. Like I just got out of the shower. I need another one.
Oh, that's too funny. Well, the day's not going to get any cooler today, so
I'm
you might
staying
as well.
inside.
You might as well just. You know what? I think let's stay outside today. It's nice.
No, you stay outside.
All right. I guess we can end it.
Okay.
It was a fun one.
It was a fun one.
Dang, I wanted to
Your
talk about
daughter
4th
and
of
I
July.
appreciate
Wanted
you.
to talk before the July.
We will talk about 4th of July next weekend when it is actually 4th of July weekend.
Hot damn.
There you go.
Hot diggity damn.
Diggity diggity.
All right. Creep factor. Love you all.
Pay attention.
Pay attention. Have a safe drive to work.
Woo!
Thank you for your time today on the morning show
No.
at KWRIZ.
KW. Quiz. The W goes before the other letter.
Why?
It's either a K or a W.
Oh. W.
So like KRIZ is actually a perfect radio name.
Yeah, it is.
Mhm.
It's funny.
Criz Radio.
WKRZ.
There you go. See?
Yeah, I dig that.
WKRZ. Okay, coming in hot.
Coming in hot. All right, everyone out there, have a wonderful week. This is your midweek treat
Mhm.
brought to you by the backyard
Of WKRZ.
of WKRZ. We'd like to thank our sponsors, BetterHelp.
Mm-hmm. And
You're,
Earthworks Audio.
Suffering from anything that needs to be talked about and you don't want to talk to someone in person, reach out to BetterHelp.
Okay.
Our friends over at Level Up Roofing Construction down in Houston,
Uh-huh.
Texas. Inked Vanity. Great hats. Cool keychains.
Yep.
Great shirts. And Earthworks microphones. Sound
Love it.
awesome.
So awesome.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, y'all. Cheers.
Bottoms up.
Bottoms up.
Bye.